The Everyman Podcast.
Yeah,
here we are. Today, very special episode, returning to us from a faraway land in the Midwest there. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy McKee. He needs no introduction. Andy, how are you, brother?
I'm good. The land of Oz. That's where I'm from.
The land of Oz. Yeah. That's right.
Love it.
So, for anybody who's listening to the show and they've never heard of Andy McKee, check out, maybe pause this episode, check out episode 23. Andy was on in the archives there. We had a great conversation kind of about his rise to where he is today and kind of how he came about. But real quick, you are one of the best known, acoustic guitar players on the planet. I mean, one of everybody I talk to that's a musician, when they're like, oh, who's been on the show, and you say Andy McKee, and they're like, oh man, I love that guy. Like, you're always the one. Everybody, doesn't matter if I'm talking to metal musicians or even like the marketing guys behind that are helping us out. They're like, oh man, we love Andy McKee. It's like, really, even you guys know. Like, so it's so cool. It's so cool to have you on. And NAMM 2020, you were the first person that I knew. Because I'm always wondering, who's going to be the first person I bump into that I know? Who's going to be, the first guy? And I was like, oh, look, it's Andy McKee. It was like, we're off to the races. So what's been going on with you since NAMM, my brother?
Well, let's see. I guess that's like the third week of January, right?
Yep, right at the end.
That. So,
back in the pre-uncertain times.
Yeah, wow. Feels like it was like 7 years ago or something.
I know.
NAMM was pretty fun. It's always a good time for me. It's if any of your listeners don't know what that is, it's like this National Association of Music Merchants. It's like all the new products and stuff get shown off, and so I usually go there to play guitar for people and stuff at their booths. Companies that I endorse and all that. And it's always pretty fun. But I just love it mostly because I get to see friends that are other musicians that maybe you don't see them until the next NAMM show. So it was a lot of fun. Again, we do a lot of partying and having good food and drink and all that stuff. So It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's Sunday. By Sunday, everybody rolls around. It's like, oof, it's getting pretty.
Yeah, it's like, do we have to go into the NAMM show?
I know. This year, I skipped the previous year, so I NAMMed very hard on Friday night. And I woke up Saturday. I was like, you know what? We're gonna get a late start today. It's gonna be a late start. But so at NAMM, you were introducing your signature model for Greenfield Guitars, and I got a chance to walk by the booth and check them out from a distance. I didn't want to get my grubby drummer hands all over him. But it's a beautiful instrument, man. Tell us a little bit about your new signature model and a little bit about that process. I know you've got some awesome videos. I was actually watching them earlier. You've got some awesome videos talking about it. And before you tell me about that, I want to say I thought it was just genius that beveled edge and the way that it's painted black. It looks like it cut. You can't really tell it's not part of the body, and it just very clever. And I was always like, God, what a perfect idea. I wish I had that when I was playing guitar.
Yeah, man. So my signature guitar is with it's just one guy really. His name's Michael Greenfield, and so he's got this brand called Greenfield Guitars. He's based in Montreal, and I've been working with him, I guess, for something like 10 years now, getting pretty close to there. And I saw his guitars, in 2004, so 16 years ago, and was just amazed, with the way they looked. They really looked like pieces of art as well as beautiful, instruments. Yeah. And so, I got a chance to play them and was just amazed with the way they sound and played as well. So they're just these really exceptional handmade acoustic guitars. And so, I've been playing them for quite a while. And then just, I guess a couple of years ago, we started talking about doing a signature model. And so we did that, and it just came out. It was announced at the NAMM show back in January. And so, it's just a huge honor to be associated with such a great guitar, and I've got about 5 of his guitars here, including a harp guitar, which is a wild guitar with extra harp strings and stuff. So
now, is that your first signature product you've launched at NAMM?
Yeah, it is actually.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah, they're really exceptional guitars, man. And his website's Greenfield Guitars. If any of your listeners want to check it out, so
absolutely, yeah. That's I had a chance when I was there to talk with Craig Blundell, and he was right after he was interviewing with me, he went and did his snare drum, and just knowing like fans, we're all fans too, and to be there and launch a product, it's just got to be that's got to be a surreal moment for you, even after everything you've all the playing with Prince and things like that. Even that must be pretty cool.
Yeah, man, just the hits keep coming. I don't know. It just seems like everything I ever wanted to do on the music thing just keeps happening. I feel very fortunate, like that.
Well, I was on that topic. I was kind of thinking, like, man, he's done it all. He's mastered it all. I was like, what would really be surprising? I was like, Andy McKee should get like an 8-string and start doing death metal. Nobody would be, no one would expect that. Like that could be the final frontier. And I don't know. I don't know if you've thought about it, but I was thinking, it could be an option. If you're,
yeah, man. That could be a thing. Shoot, I don't know if I'm angry enough, but
well, that's what I mean. You could bring you would bring your passion and your thoughtfulness to the genre. I think it would be quite a treat.
That could be a new thing. Shoot, yeah. I've been working actually on some new music, and have been for a little while. But some of it's kind of 80s synth inspired, so that's kind of a weird twist. And I'm even doing some stuff that's kind of just really like new agey stuff you'd hear like at the spa, when you get a massage.
Hey man, you know how many spas are out there? They're always buying music, so
that's right.
Not a bad idea. Dude. You could do that for a long time.
Be relaxing minds everywhere. That'd be great.
Yeah. You might need it these days.
Yeah, yes, for real.
Yeah,
therapeutic, seriously. Man. Well, it's I we were talking about this. We had Tommy Rogers from Between the Buried and Me on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how sometimes, for me at least, music kind of like it'll attach itself to a certain period of my life or a certain experience, and then it's hard for me to not associate that going forward, Mm-hmm. And this is one of those times where I think a lot of art is going to be. There hasn't been like that. I don't know. Maybe it has happened yet, and I just haven't seen it. But I think this is going to make for a lot of really interesting, creative works over the next couple of years of people being inspired and just this whole We joke about it all the time, like not the situation, but we joke the term uncertain circumstances. It's like it's a
uncertain time.
Like it's a copywritten phrase you can't say.
Yeah.
So we just refer to it as the uncertain circumstances.
Like every commercial right now starts with that phrase. Like,
it's so weird. I just think
these uncertain times.
I know, but it's just I just
Downy
think
dryer sheets.
Yeah, you should. My favorite one is the one. It's like in these uncertain times, you shouldn't have to worry about toilet paper, and it's like the bears like with wiping their butts, and I'm like, you're right. I shouldn't have to worry about toilet paper. It's I'll tell you. Yeah. What a treat. So and before I forget, man, a couple weeks ago we have our Twitch show on the Everyman Podcast on Twitch Fridays at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, and we were talking about your appearance coming up, and I was playing the training montage video, and that is like one of my favorite. I told you, on the side last time, I was like, dude, that's one of my. I know of all the great music you've done, that is like probably the thing I watch the most of yours. So that's killer, man. I hope so. When you said it's like you've got synth inspired music, I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah, that might get on there, man. Because actually,
it should.
Vince DiCola, the guy that wrote that music, he was at my guitar camp last year as a special guest. Talking about composing and stuff.
Oh yeah, dude.
So
that's amazing.
I mentioned the idea to him, and he seemed open to it. So maybe we could do like a
duet,
sort of new take on it.
Oh,
that's right. That's Rocky IV, right?
Yeah.
Dude, track 5, War, Vince DiCola. Get it.
It's a classic.
Get it.
Daryl and I are really passionate movie fans, and especially action movies and stuff. And I know you're a fan of that stuff too. And we've been on the Steven Seagal kick lately.
Oh my god.
Man.
And I wanted to, I see, are you a Seagal fan?
Am I gonna get in trouble?
No, man. Tell us. You can say whatever you want. You're in the Cosmic Canoe. That's okay, man. That's great. He's we love the fact that he's like a Renaissance man. He's got an album out. He's a blues guitarist. He's
Mojo Priest is his name, his stage name.
Yeah, he's a man of the law. He's right. You know what I mean? It's a great time. But I've been watching all these old action movies, like Seagal movies, and I was watching Invasion USA, and then like was watching John, because I was off work, with the pandemic and all that stuff. So, be productive, but at a certain point, you got to watch, some Chuck Norris movies. But
got to
all those movies back then, man, had just such an over the top badass soundtrack, and I listen back to that, and I think about movies like Commando that I used to watch all the time as a kid,
dude.
And then I'm like, no wonder I have the musical taste that I do, because I used to watch that and Power Rangers all the time, and it was just just shredding all the time since I was 5 years old.
Oh man!
But
dude, speaking of Commando, I got to tell you a real quick little. So my dad used to work for the state of Kansas as a gas pipeline inspector, and he was issued a camcorder as part of his job.
Sweet.
And so we would sometimes like copy movies that we rented, and so we'd end up with these mixtapes. Of 80s movies, and so I had one that had Commando, Rambo 2, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure on it. It was like,
sweet,
oh my
dude.
God, how much did you watch that? God, you still have the tape? Jeez,
dude,
I'd love to. Yeah, that's like a, and it's funny you bring up that idea, the mixtape thing, because like I'm 30, so I had some of that, a little bit of that, because my brother is older. He's 6 years older than me, so I was always you always try to be like your older brother, whatever, but. Like VHS tapes to all that stuff.
T120s.
I remember like making like a crazy kid watching pro wrestling and like, oh, I got to record this segment. I'm going to need to watch this later. And then like having these mixtapes of just like crazy shit on and then like I found one of the tapes and I'm watching. I'm like, what was I even, which part of this was I filming? Like recording. You just, I think that's like, well, I guess now you have everybody making videos and stuff, but I don't know. There's just something charming about that idea of a mixtape to me.
Yeah, trying to capture the best moments and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Missing 10 seconds.
Dude, I remember I did like VHS. I was recording. I had like my highlight tape from high school, and it went like right into like Ninja Turtles. Like, how does this happen?
We got to get a new tape, Mom.
Or you'd stay up late and try to watch like Cinemax and get little breasts maybe on a
you get that pixelated, and then that was the other thing you like, because the pay-per-view channels it's like if you left it on there long enough, you caught it, there's like, whoa, and I just saw 20 seconds of Men in Black 2 or something, or otherwise, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, there's a whole can of fun that people are missing out on, that
so much,
having to go out and find things.
Those were the days.
Yes, sir.
Well, even like yes, I mean like guitar hunting. It's like not a hunt anymore, or anything. Like you used to have to like, I'm looking for a guitar. I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna go here, and then next weekend I'm gonna go here and here and here, and then now it's just like you walk into the same, there's some great boutique stores around the country, but for the most part, not so much. And everything's just like, it'll just come to me. And then you get this crazy, lime green Ibanez with scalped fretboard. Like it just the crazy, whatever unique item you want now, Yeah.
It's all online.
Anything you want.
Yep.
Anything you want. So, speaking of online, man, so I know that obviously, live performances have been affected for everybody. And, we have a lot of musicians on the show, obviously. And a common theme has been like adapting, and here in the Cosmic Canoe, we talk a lot about, overcoming these kind of things that pop up. And I've always kind of had, it beaten into my head, like if you're going to be a musician, you got to have something else going, because, you can't rely on it. I mean, sure, that you've heard the same things, growing up. And now more than ever, it's really evident that like, I've seen a lot of my friends have to repurpose, retool, figure what they're going to do out, and it's really affected their lives. And I'm curious, like, how has this affected you as, your business, Andy McKee as a entity, or whatever you want to, call that. What's this been like for you as a entrepreneur?
Well, it's been okay for the most part. My last shows were, I think it was like mid-February or so, and it was actually in Japan.
Nice.
And it was 2 nights at this really classy jazz club called the Cotton Club in Tokyo. And
That sounds like a
and before I
great
even
time.
went there,
Oh yeah.
it was like this stuff was starting. It was like in the news, of course, mid-February, and some places were starting to make changes and stuff. And so I was even debating whether to even go out there. And but I ended up doing it. But while I was there, I played 2 nights at this club. So it was like while I was there, they shut down all the schools, and I was like, oh man, this is really wild, and I was like, man, should I just skip the second night and come home now? I mean, what do you, talking to my manager, like, what's going on? But, I was able to do both the shows and then get back. And then I've just been here ever since, but I've been trying to do a few things, seeing what kind of sticks. I was doing live streams on Facebook every Monday, and I'm kind of taking a break from that. I didn't want to sort of overdo it, but, did that for like probably a couple of months or so. But taking a little break from that. I did a couple of instructional videos that I put up on YouTube for a couple of different tunes, broken down into like 3 different videos just to give people things to do and all that. And
Cool.
yeah, so those things have been good. And I had like sort of a tip jar, just to, if people wanted to do that. But it was always like, if you feel like you want to and you can, because I know it's crazy right now. But
Right.
but that was actually pretty good. And so things have been all right. And,
That's good.
I still get like some royalties and stuff from my music. And, but one of the biggest thing, I guess for the last couple months, I've been shooting these videos for this True Fire channel. True Fire is an instructional website, truefire.com. They got all these great guitar players on there with instructional courses and stuff. And I'm going to start this channel on there where it's like I'm going to have, when I launch, probably 30 some videos on there.
Sweet.
Yeah, and you can subscribe to it. We'll keep the price really low, and every week I'll put up a new video. There'll even be an option to do individual lessons, stuff like that. So, and
That's
I used to
awesome.
teach guitar for like
Sweet.
20 years or so, or 17 years or something before I really took off, with performing. So I'm really comfortable as an instructor, and so it's kind of fun, really, in a way, to get back into that and show people how to play fingerstyle guitar.
Cool.
Well, that's one of the things I was thinking about, because I watched one of your new instructional videos upstairs before I came down here and into the Everyman lair, and I was thinking, like, man, this was like so natural for you to be sitting there explaining what to do, and you had such a nice teaching cadence. I think as somebody who's been I'm still a student. We all are to an extent, but I still take lessons every now and then when I can. There's a certain flow that you need to have to help people learn, and you really have that. And I'm watching you play, and it's funny, I do play a little bit of little guitar, and it's like I said last time you were on the pod, like when I was working in the music store and we all saw your videos for the first time, everybody's smacking the shit out of their guitars. All of a sudden, everybody's trying to be Andy McKee, and there's something about your playing, compared to other, great talented guitar. Like when I watch John Petrucci, for example, I don't feel inspired to play guitar because it's just different, his way of playing, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to watch this like a sport. But when you play, it's still so technically amazing and impressive, but it makes me want to play. And it's weird, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way. And so it's cool to see you like being involved, again, as a teacher. I think that's really great.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate what you just said there. I think I try to put a sort of humanity in my music, even though I do enjoy, doing unusual stuff, creative stuff, stuff that is maybe intellectually stimulating too. But I like to have a voice in there that people can connect with, like a good melody, or just the chords I like to use, So I think maybe that's what makes you want to learn it or something too, is just that sort of connection.
Yeah, very human. Yeah. That's a good point. I guess you would know what your songwriting is all about, wouldn't I? It's the best place to ask, huh? Best place. That's great, man. That's great. So, yeah, I mean, that's neat. So, was the teaching thing with this platform, Fire TV, was that something you already had in the works, or was that as kind of a result? As like, hey, I've got some extra time here to focus on this?
Yeah, I had done a course with them before. So what that is like I taught how to play, I think maybe 6 or 7 of my songs. And then if you wanted, you could go to TrueFire and you can buy that course. And so then you get the videos and you can do that whole thing and learn the tunes. But then this whole idea of having a channel where it's sort of actively, I'm putting new videos on every week. And that was just kind of brought to me, I guess, yeah, maybe when this all kind of started, so back in spring.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people were already, like we already were prepared. Like we've been doing the podcast already, so it was like, okay, now we just got more time to do it. A lot of people are into the home recording and stuff, you know what I mean? So I think there was like a lot of people that took an opportunity to like help people that maybe weren't doing that and get it out there, because I've been seeing a lot of artists. I mean, even Mike Mangini in front of the show, he's doing these master classes. I mean, I'm a big barbecue guy. I love the barbecue, and like Franklin, from Franklin Barbecue, he has like this master class course that you can sign up for, and it's like a 16-hour video course that teaches you everything this guy, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, I probably could learn something from that, and we're just starting to scratch the surface on like how powerful a tool this new medium is for education, and
remote,
like even things like this, like this podcast where it's fun and it's silly, and yeah, we can talk about Steven Seagal's ass or whatever, but it's also there's ways to use that to help teach something every now and then, which is cool.
For sure.
So I know I was playing some of your tunes for Daryl, and on the topic of tunes, I was saying to my fiance, I was thinking as I was watching this with my fiance, saying tunes is so cool. I gotta say that more. I think that's like, I love that. It's just
better than songs.
Yeah, it's a song. I'm like, songs is so ugh. I'm a tune guy. Now.
Songs is so 93. We don't do songs anymore.
Yeah. Well, it just encapsulates it better, I think. You know what I mean?
I like saying it myself right now. Like, tunes.
I think I know what you mean, man, because I'm pretty sure the definition of a song is it has to have lyrics. So really calling what I do a tune is more appropriate anyway. So.
Right, because it's like a melody you could hum along to, or
instrumental awesomeness,
or whatever.
Yeah, I like that.
It's great, but Daryl. Daryl's. I've brought him into my world a lot with music, Dream Theater especially. We have a mutual love for Dream Theater. Andy and I, of course, and brought Daryl to his first Dream Theater show. His mind was blown.
It was. Still is blown.
Cool. When did you go? Which show was it?
So it was April of 2019.
Yep.
So it was Distance Over Time tour.
Mm-hmm.
So they were, and what's crazy is, so that day, Mike Mangini said something along the lines of like, yeah, this is like the best I've ever played, and I was like, all right, that's awesome. I believe you, because why wouldn't you? I mean, but it's just, to me, it's just like, that's so cool that that's the best you've ever played, and he can quantify it because of his practice routine and all this stuff. He knows if he's the best. And then like 6 months later, we see him. He's like, let me tell you something. I'm playing even better than I played last time. Let me know what you think. And I was like, yes, sir. And I'm like, holy shit. He found that guy. Like, and I say this because like the thing I'm so amazed by them, all of them, is they're always like pushing themselves to do better. And like, that is such a great example for musicians, or anyone really. I mean, if you're an athlete or a student or just anybody, that constant pressure to improve and desire to improve. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's always inspiring for me, whenever I get to be around those guys. And I think the last time I was out with them, we were in Europe, and I think that was just last year. Time is a bit of a, I don't know. It's like time. I don't know where
time is relative at this point.
But we did some shows in Europe, and they're always just so amazing. They're always on top of their game. They're always shredding right before they get on stage. They're just playing through everything, and then they get on stage and just kill it every night, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, I'm sure they miss a miss a beat, but it's hard to find it if it happens. They're and I saw Tool in the last. I think Tool was probably the last concert I saw up till NAMM. And all the pageantry that goes on there, but they were the same way. That was just like a powerful concert experience. But all this to say that Andy, you are one of the guys, one of the artists, the talents that I've kind of brought into Daryl's domain.
Oh yeah,
and he's
yeah.
I know he's got something to say about it. So
I'm like chopping it. I'm rubbing my knees
Daryl,
right now.
Daryl's now Andy,
to,
before
stay contained.
and just for our audience and for your audience, of course, that's listening to the Everyman Podcast for the first time. Daryl he's a former NFL player, professional athlete. He's a producer for NFL films, and his specialty is breaking things down on a critical level, on a technical level, and it's always very interesting. So let me preface that with this man is a professional break it downer. So
basically all that means is I'm a giant toddler. So and I missed you during the first podcast. So again, I'm literally sitting over here rubbing my legs like I can't wait to say something to Andy about this. So first and foremost, I am a super fan of your work, and I love being on this podcast for the simple reason that, like Justin says, he brings me into his world about music. Listen, I came into this thing like a newborn baby, smooth mind, no myelin layer, and then my first episode into the music game was Dream Theater. Boom, it was over. Like everything, I couldn't even fit into the seats, but I didn't care.
Yeah, that was the funny thing. Did you ever been to the Tower
just
Theater?
So awesome.
The Tower Theater. It's like a almost 200-year-old theater, and the seats in the top are 1920s ass size.
Ridiculous. Half of my cheek,
crazy.
One of them, fit in the actual seat. So I kind of was standing up most of the time, but
it's a squat.
I got to preface this, Andy. I'm gonna fanboy out on you right now. I really am. Okay, so I just want you to just deal with this because it's gonna be. You're just gonna have to take this one because I missed you the first time. So I'm gonna go. I got notes. This is gonna be real. So first and foremost, I'm going to go from back to forward, right? Today, Justin sends me the notes about the podcast, right? And I'm having the shittiest work day known to mankind. I'm getting stuff from everywhere at NFL Films. I'm looking left, I'm looking right. I'm like, please, no more emails. And then Justin sends me this text message. He's like, this, got to check out, Andy's stuff. And I'm looking cool, Africa and Into the Ocean and, all these awesome, tracks. And I go into one. And the way my mind works is if I like one, I'm like, I need the discography yesterday, and I'm going to go into it. So I hit what I like to call at work the nope button. So when I hit the nope button, that means whatever comes my way, nope, not having it. I'm actually going to be doing what I want to do, which is listen to all 5 of your albums and the EP, and I don't give a shit what comes across my table, because that's just what happened today. So that's what I did.
Right.
Literally from noon to 7 p.m. I'm just listening to everything you ever did. And bro, wow, you are an artist, man. Musical mosaics all across the place. This thing is amazing. And again, everything is an intellectual exercise for me. So Brother Jay says, hey, get in the Cosmic Canoe. I'm in the Cosmic Canoe, and I'm learning about this. I'm learning about percussives. I'm learning about the tonal energy and synergy of sound. I'm learning about musical indentations and stuff like that. And I'm sitting here listening to Joyland 2010. And bro, how do you 2-hand strum, right? And then do the percussive slaps and palms back on the guitar and just rock out like that. It's amazing. It blows my mind to see you do that. And before I go too crazy here, look. So I wrote this down. Number 1, Joyland, unbelievable, love it. Blue Liquid, amazing. I don't know how you did that. It was amazing. It was awesome. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. You crushed. I'm going to do this. You crushed it. You crushed that song, bro. You crushed it. And then here's this.
Tears for Fears.
Dude, number 7, Hunter's Moon. That's the dopest name for a track I've ever heard. Hunter's Moon. That's amazing. And then we come back with Layover. So the one thing I love about Layover is, when you're at an airport, and you got shit to do because you're waiting, right? And I don't know if this actually is kind of what you were going with it, but this is the soundtrack from going from your seat, being anxious. You're waiting on your plane. You go to Starbucks, you grab something, you come back, and you're like, if this is the track that's playing in my mind. I didn't know it until I actually heard it, but this is the track that's actually playing in your mind when you're doing that, right? So
you're like, only 3 minutes.
You know, really, this is amazing, right? And then we go to Art of Motion, 2005, Into the Ocean, awesome. Rylin, can you tell me like what was the impetus behind that? Because that is beautiful.
Yeah, man.
That was freaking beautiful.
Quickly, I want to mention, too, actually, Layover, just so you know, it was a tune written by Michael Hedges. I wish I could say I wrote that one, but that may have been his inspiration for that, though. I'm not sure, but he's one of my big influences, and I wanted to pay tribute to him. He passed away back in 1997, so that ended up on the album. But anyway, Rylin is a tune that I dedicated to a friend of mine. When sadly he had a young daughter that had passed away, and that was her name, and they just kind of invented the name, and I thought it'd be great just to use it as a tribute to the memory of her, and so I just used her name for the title.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah,
kudos to you for that. That's amazing. And my favorite album of all is Nocturne, and so when you go down the research angle, and then you find out it's only 1,000 copies were ever produced, and it's no longer in circulation. So I'm sitting here like, what do you mean? This thing is freaking like it should still be like on the shelves right now. Like this should not be a situation that we're experiencing, right? And Practice is Perfect, number 2, 714, number 3, and Ore. Am I saying that right? Ore? Is that the?
It's pronounced Ure.
Ure. My apologies. Ure. And I'm looking up that word. It's like Native American word means arrow, right? Is that correct?
It's a small town in Colorado.
Yeah.
Not too far from Telluride. And I'd gone there with some friends on a spring break, like when I was 16 or 17 or something, and just loved it. And that was the first tune I ever wrote for acoustic guitar, actually, Ure. So
yeah. And the reason I love that's my favorite album is because so there's this thing about firsts with anything, right? So the first thing you do, you just pour your whole soul into that thing, right? And I'm the same way at NFL Films. Some of the first cuts I've ever done, like I would stack that up with the things I'm doing right now any day, just because I know on the first time out, I just poured my whole self into it. And that album was kind of like, it just felt like you poured your whole self into it. And Ure, honestly, out of all the best ofs that you can see on YouTube, to me, this is just to me personally, when I watch you play that, you're having so much fucking fun, bro. Like so much fun, dude. I'm like just everything and like literally the tonal highs from the succession on the strip, and then you just back it down, and then I'm like, oh man, it's like if I were to try to quantify it, it's like it's the sound or kind of like a tone that just makes you smile, right? Like from the back of your neck, like on the tip at the top right there, and you're just like, man, I just can't. So I'm in the office, I'm having this shitty day, and like I'm listening to Ure, and I'm just like, man, this is just what I needed, you know? And so I don't know. I'm gushing right now, but like, dude, you're amazing, man.
I really appreciate that, man. You know, and I definitely know what you mean too about that passion that you have on your first kind of delivery,
dude, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so to be, you know, I've been a little bit of a dry well on the new music, unfortunately. But there's a kind of a reason behind it, and it's because I'm wanting that sort of really intense sort of feeling.
Yeah.
To be there, and I don't want to fake it, you know. And so I've been writing things over the years, and some of it I'm slowly curating into the next album, you know.
Yeah.
Because some of it, when I listen back to it, it's like, it doesn't really have what it needs. And so it's taken a while, but when it's out, you know, it'll be worth it, I think. So.
Well, the cool thing is from Nocturne, and this is kind of another reason why I think, and then I'll be done but anyway, so like it's like, here's the thing, you're saying like, hey, it's just trying to that dry well, but it's like every album that came after Nocturne, right? You're like, you know, I'm just sprinkling a little bit of Nocturne on here. Let me put 714 right there. Let me put this over here, or you know, let me put Ure right here, you know, and yeah. You know, some of your other albums, and I'm like, dude, this was a Nocturne, like originally, like this is he's sprinkling it all over. I love it.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons for that, man. Like because like you said, I mean, I only had 1,000 copies of that made, like way back 2001. And then I ended up on this independent record label for a while called Candy Rat Records. And so when they wanted to release an album, I was like, well, I've already released a couple of things independently, which was, Dreamcatcher and Nocturne. And so it was, they were like, well, why don't we just take some tunes from that and we'll just make this new album. It'll be the Candy Rat release. So that was Art of Motion. Plus a couple of other ones that weren't released yet were on there. But then the next one, Gates and Omeria, there were still some that, were on these records that were just kind of forgotten by time. And so I was like, well, let's put the rest of them on Gates and Omeria. So that's kind of how that ended up getting on the other discs.
Dude, I tell you what, I was loving it though, because I was like, this is from Nocturne, this is awesome. So yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, I was listening to the Live Book album today, and you're talking about that song and how I'm curious about this Black Panther that graced the cover. So it wasn't your idea, huh?
Oh no, man! Yeah, I was just.
You think he was going for like a Michael Jackson type?
Dude, I was really. I had to be like pressured into even putting an album out, and it was like the guy that ran the front cash register at the music store that I taught at. He was like, "You should do an album," and I was like, "Okay," because I had started to write stuff, and so he told me about a guy with a record studio and we could record at, and. So we did that, and then he's like, well, I know another guy who's a photographer, maybe you could get like the cover with this guy. And so, he had this idea to shoot this picture, at nighttime, since the album was going to be called Nocturne. And so we went out to this, cool tree that he thought was pretty cool or whatever. And so I just stood next to the tree with my guitar. And he
tried to be cool, right?
On, Cool, dude. Nice.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude.
I'll tell you, that's the one, and speaking from my experience, when you're starting the band the first time, or that first time, when you're doing all these things and all the weird people, hey, I know this guy that does this, and you're like, okay, because you don't know anything, you don't know any better, and then it's like, oh no, I'm not. But like by the time you've been doing it for 10 years, your bullshit detector is pretty
spider sense.
But there's just that sweet, that sweet moment of time where you're like, okay, I'll stand by this tree. Sure. No way this could go wrong.
That was exactly it. It wasn't like, hey, have you ever done any album covers before? Or,
he's got a nice camera.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good camera,
It's got one of those flash things on it. That was always I was like, well, he's got a fucking
thing.
Yeah. Or he's got a lens that goes on the camera, so that must be good.
Oh, he's probably got a lot of experience.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell by the lens he has a lot of experience.
Yeah, that's a. I said this to Tommy Rogers a couple weeks ago. They didn't show that in the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg. The photographer mix-ups and the goofballery that goes on. It's I missed where that was. I'm like, excuse me, where's my limo? And
straight to that.
Yep. So dude, I always take a look at social media, a little bit, and just to see what's popping, and before we have a guest on, and I saw your post with your sweet mask, because obviously, the Everyman Podcast, we encourage you guys to mask it up, if you're doing your thing, just mask it up, and you're talking about like, hey man, I get to look like Sub-Zero here, and then somebody put a Photoshop up of you in combat ready stance with your mask on. It was beautiful, and it got me thinking. That's a pretty deep cut reference there. Are you a big Mortal Kombat fan?
Yeah, pretty big. I mean, I've got the two most recent ones. So it was 11 and 10, I guess.
Love 11.
And back when it came out, I was blown away. And before that, Street Fighter. But
this guy's a big Street Fighter.
Who's your guy? Who's your guy?
Oh man, I'm a Ken guy.
Oh, you're a Ken guy, dude. I'm a Ryu, Ken, and Guile. Those like, dude. If you try to jump on, it's over. It's over for your life force, man. You might as well just watch your energy gauge go down. It's bad.
Perfect.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, one day he comes over. I had just gotten the Street Fighter collection for Switch, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let me see." He's never played this controller or whatever, and he's just like firing off these combos, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I guess all this."
Because nobody understands my god brother. He actually he ended up being a competitive gamer, and that was his like we used to always tell him, Ian, you're down there playing games for too long. Like, you got to pay attention to school. He's like, no, I got to finish this 10-minute combo. And then, like, me and his older brother were just like, yeah, we're just going to pay attention and just, do our things, right? So he goes to the military. My best friend, Ivan, he goes to the military. He becomes a nurse. Ian is a competitive video game player going around the world. Like, all those times where we said, like, get away from the TV. And he's making a 6-figure salary.
Yep.
At esports.
Should have stayed in front of the TV.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just sitting there like, I can tell him nothing. He's making more than I do. So it's just like, with sponsors, games, just playing video games. So, but no, like with Street Fighter, nobody understood like the cross combos. Once that happens, you're just locked in there. So. I love it.
Yeah, awesome. Man, that's when I first got into like fighting games, and then when we saw Mortal Kombat in the arcades, it was just like, dude, it was like seeing like Kickboxer or like blood sport, like come to life. Like,
how impactful was the film on you? Does that have a special place? Exactly. Does that have either of them? Do they not have a special place in your heart, or what?
They do. They totally do.
Dude,
maybe even more, Bloodsport. I still love that film. I love the music too. I mean, it's
those
awesome.
movies, man. They all had great music.
Yeah,
everything was over the top. But yeah, that Mortal Kombat movie with what's his name, Robin Shue. Oof, great film. And then Annihilation with that
Kombat films.
With that CGI, that horrible CGI at the end. So good.
Have you seen the animation?
Scorpion, like spear was like an animal or something.
Oh yeah.
Some kind
Reptile was super scary. You know what? I went and saw Mortal Kombat in a drive-in movie theater. It was that and Waterworld.
Oh, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good.
Talk about a double header.
Nice.
But yeah, those are great films. We're excited. They got a new Mortal Kombat coming out next year. But the fighting games, I got hooked on, obviously Mortal Kombat 10 and 11, love 11, and I was doing those Towers of Time. And then when they had like the ranking system, I was like, oh, I love a good ranking system, So I just spent all my time doing it, and we got to like the top 0.8 percentile of high scores on there, which was pretty. I was pretty proud there for a week. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that
and
cool, Injustice, those fighting games, they just activate a certain weird part of my brain with all the combos and the blocking and the speed. I don't know. I don't know quite what's wrong with me.
There's nothing wrong with you. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's absolutely nothing wrong with you.
I've got a beautiful mind.
There might be something wrong with me. I got to admit, lately I've been playing Sims 4.
Oh,
like
dude!
Like a teenage girl or something. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm like addicted.
What are you? Yeah, tell us about the Sims. Now you can't just.
Are you fluent in Simlage?
No.
Yeah, so
I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
So what kind of sim world are you building? Are you a peaceful leader? Is this like are you dropping people in swimming pools? Like, tell us about your sim life.
I got a secret agent, man. He's pretty high level now, almost maxed out.
Wow.
So got a sweet little secret agent headquarters in the basement and a workout room and a sauna upstairs. It's pretty cool.
Are you using the expansion packs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are you fluent in like Simlage? So like, have you like cuidado?
Sim.
Oh my goodness.
I get. There's a game Cities that's like SimCity, and I have to keep it off my hard drive because otherwise I get sucked into it, and it just there goes 30 hours. You know what I mean?
Where you like build a city up?
Oh yeah, and you're like doing residential zoning, industrial zoning, and start setting laws, and don't cut these trees down. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But so I try to keep myself on a short leash there. So oh man, only on the Everyman Podcast, right?
That's awesome.
The only place you get that side of Andy McKee. Yeah, maybe you could start a career on Twitch as like a Sims streamer. That could be You know?
Yeah, man, I started a Twitch account when this whole thing started out, and I thought, I've always been way into games, since I was probably 5 or 6, and I obviously still really enjoy games. And I tried it a couple times, and man, for me, it's just not. I don't know. It's not for me, because for me, games are kind of an escape.
Yeah, there you go.
I know you
So,
turn
like,
it into
playing-
professional time. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
It just didn't feel good to me, so I kind of gave up on it. But anyway.
Yeah, it's a special breed. There's a lot of cool music on there though. There's this guy that plays accordion on there. It's called Happy Time Radio. Check him out. It's this Italian guy, and he just plays accordion like 9 hours a day, and it's incredibly peaceful. Yeah, impressive.
Okay.
So as we start to wind down here, we got a couple things that we've got planned here today. So a new segment we've been doing here on the Everyman Podcast is the Teaching the Everyman. So this is where we kind of give you an opportunity to give us a little lesson on something. Could be whatever you want. So Andy, take whatever time you want to teach us a little something.
Okay, maybe a couple things I could talk about just real quick. I think one thing maybe could be helpful for people, especially in these uncertain times, would be maybe to get into meditation a little bit if you've never tried it before or thought about it. It's something that I do sometimes, and really helps to calm me down, because I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's depressing a bit, these days. You can't go do whatever you want, or you're thinking about when's this all going to change or whatever. And so I find that meditation kind of helps me chill out, and so and I would just recommend, try to find a quiet place where you can just sit and just try to be silent and still, listen to your breath for maybe 10 minutes, and not do anything else. Try not to think about much except your breathing. And then work it up maybe to 20 minutes and just see how you feel. Just even after that, you can be surprised how more calm you are. So that would be something I'd recommend to people to try. And then I don't know if there's going to be a lot of guitar players tuning in, but maybe one thing I could talk about with the guitar. I've got one here, incidentally.
Oh, there it is.
Look at that beauty.
Love it.
Yeah, this is my
It's like a Mystic
baritone.
Dream finish.
Yeah, it kind of is. It goes from purple to green.
Oh, cool.
Because of the color shift on it.
Beautiful.
But with guitar playing, something I would recommend that people think about is dynamics. Sometimes that's something that people don't think about till later, maybe. Once you've already mastered playing fast or learned a bunch of scales or whatever, is to think about the way that you're playing as far as like controlling the volume and dynamics of the notes you're playing. So it can really add a lot of character and life to the music. I think that's kind of what separates a pretty good performance to like a great one. When you can hear somebody really controlling that sort of nuance of each note and how loud they're playing it and the accenting certain ones. So just as an example, like maybe since it's the baritone, my tune Ebon Coast, I could do a little bit of that and maybe show how dynamics can make it more interesting. So I don't know if you can see here, but we'll try it. So that's kind of like standard. Everything's just kind of one dynamic, really, but I'll try to control it a little bit more. You can kind of hear how it changes the music. So just by like doing those little sort of changes, it brings the music kind of to life, and it's not all just kind of one attack and one volume all the way across. So something to think about.
Something to think about, indeed. And I love that. I love the meditation. I'm gonna try that because it's something I struggle with. Keeping the fucking beast, in the cage.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give that a try. Thank you for sharing that with the Everyman and the Everywoman here in the Cosmic Canoe.
Dude,
My
that's
pleasure,
awesome.
man. Hope it helps.
Yeah, I think it will. So, we've talked. We've been through so much, Andy. We've been through so much.
We have, man.
It's been an awesome conversation, man. Truly, I respect you immensely. I'm amazed at the stuff that you do, and I just genuinely appreciate your time. And
Hell
thanks
yeah.
for sharing it with our audience. And I'm happy to share it with my big bro, DC over here.
Man, it's a pleasure to meet you, man.
You too, bro.
And I can't wait till these uncertain circumstances are over, and I'll hit you up when you're coming through the Philadelphia region, and we'll get to see you in person.
Yeah.
That's great.
And we can get down. So, you special. It's a special occasion. You're here, and what do you say? Play us off a little bit with a little piece of whatever's on your heart, and tell us a little bit about it, and we'll catch you all next week.
Sounds good. All right, man. So, well, since I'm already in the tuning, I might as well just go ahead and continue with Epic Coast. Give you some more of that.
Let's hit it.
All right.
Andy McKee.